Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. The first stirrings of life, like whispers of the universe's secret, began not in the vast skies, but deep within the cradle of Earth. In the quiet darkness of primordial waters, the first cell, humble and unassuming, stirred into existence. It did not know yet what it would become, nor the journey it would embark upon. It was simply a collection of atoms bound together by invisible forces, seeking to survive. In that moment there was no plan, no grand design. Yet within the cell something extraordinary was unfolding. The delicate dance of molecules, each one playing its part in an invisible rhythm, began to shape the very essence of life. These molecules, proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids, came together not out of necessity, but out of an innate drive to exist. This was not an act of will, but of pure survival, a silent pull towards unity. As the first cell divided, it carried with it the knowledge of how to replicate itself. A spark of life, fragile yet powerful, emerged from the depths of the ocean, carrying with it the secret of survival, cooperation. The cell was not alone, and it did not need to be. It found strength in its ability to work with others to form new intricate connections. And so the first communities of life began to emerge. Within these communities, cells began to share their resources, their knowledge, and their tasks. One cell might specialize in producing energy, while another focused on protecting the whole. They communicated in a language of chemical signals, a silent conversation that bound them together. It was here, in this quiet unity, that evolution's first masterpiece began, the foundation of complex life. What we see today, the human body with its countless cells, each with its own role and purpose, was born from these early moments of cooperation. In the depths of time, life found its strength not in isolation, but in connection. The story of evolution from those first sparkings of life is a story of how each cell learned to trust, to share, and to thrive together. The simple cell, once an isolated being, had learned the art of working with others, and in this delicate, beautiful cooperation, the potential for all life, from the smallest organism to the grandest creatures, was born. And so the stage was set for life to evolve in all its breathtaking complexity. In the warm embrace of these tiny individual cells, the vast potential of life was waiting. The first building blocks were laid, and with every division, every shared task, the journey of evolution moved forward. It was here in the hidden depths that life first learned its most precious lesson. Alone, it could not survive. Together, it would change the world. And so, the spark of life continued to burn brightly, spreading outward into the vast unknown, carrying with it the lessons of cooperation, the beauty of connection, and the endless possibilities of the future. It was here, in the silence of that first cell's existence, that evolution began its great work of creation, slowly and gently, over millennia. The world of life had begun. As life began its slow, winding journey, it was not a journey of solitary cells, but of families. Each cell had its own desires and needs, yet it was bound to others in a delicate web of shared responsibilities. With each passing moment, the first communities of life became more sophisticated, more interdependent, and more resilient. These early forms of life, still hidden beneath the surface of the earth, were learning the rhythm of existence, and with it, they began to develop something extraordinary: purpose. In the vast, uncharted waters, cells learned to communicate. It was not through voices, but through a language older than time itself, the language of chemistry. A molecule here, a signal there, tiny ripples of change flowing between the cells. Some cells, in their wisdom, began to specialize, dedicating themselves to particular tasks. Some became protectors, guarding the fragile community. Others became energy producers, fueling the needs of their neighbours. Each cell, though unique, was now an integral part of something much greater than itself. This division of labour, a beautiful choreography of nature's design, was the first true step toward complexity. It was through cooperation that life could grow and thrive, and from that cooperation, the structure of everything to come was born. The cells that once lived alone now formed intricate partnerships, sharing the burdens of survival, communicating across the waters with silent signals, each one playing its part in the grand symphony of life. As these early communities began to flourish, the world around them was changing too. The earth was still young, and the oceans held secrets deep within them. But above, the skies were slowly becoming more hospitable, the atmosphere richer with the gases that would later nourish all life. In this ever-changing world, the cells, these tiny architects of life, adapted, shifting and evolving in response to the environment that surrounded them. Their bodies, once simple and unadorned, began to grow in complexity layer by layer, just as the world itself was. This was the beginning of something truly extraordinary, the evolution of life through cooperation. These early cells were not just surviving, they were thriving, creating the foundation for all the life that would follow. And though they were small, their impact was profound. The story of the human body, the story of you and the story of all life, was being written in these tiny, unassuming moments. A story that would continue for billions of years, written not in the blood of kings or the deeds of gods, but in the chemical whispers between cells. From the first spark of life, from the cooperation of those first simple cells, everything that came after was destined to unfold. The complex body you inhabit today, its heart, its mind, its muscles and bones, was once just a dream in the waters, a dream that grew from the union of cells. The body we have now, the ability to walk and talk, to think and feel, was first born from this cooperation. From the simple act of one cell relying on another to survive, to thrive. In the quiet depths of that first cell's world, we see the foundations of all living things. Every intricate system in your body, the circulatory system, the nervous system, your muscles, your bones, was once born from that ancient shared trust between cells. They learned together that survival was not just a solitary act, but a communal effort. And with every passing moment, every whisper between molecules, they built the body. Today, when you look at your hands or feel your heart beating, remember that they were once mere ideas, born from the simple, beautiful act of cooperation. You are the product of billions of years of evolution, of molecules and cells learning to trust each other, to share, to grow together. And as the cells that created you continue their work in silence, passing on the knowledge of cooperation to every generation, so too does the story of life continue to unfold, and with it, the possibility of more life, more complexity, and more beauty, all stemming from that first spark, the beginning of everything. As time passed, the once simple world of solitary cells had transformed into a magnificent tapestry of interconnected life. The bonds that were formed between cells, once mere whispers, had grown into a symphony of collaboration. Life, in all its complexity, was not built from individual strength, but from the unity of countless tiny beings working together. This, perhaps, is one of the most beautiful truths of evolution. Life is not a solitary journey, but a shared experience. From the first spark of life, through the whispers of chemical signals, the story of cooperation spread far and wide. The cells that once relied solely on themselves now relied on each other, forming the first multicellular organisms. These early forms of life were fragile, as all new beginnings are, but they had learned the most important lesson that life could teach them. Survival depended on connection. The strength of the group was greater than the strength of any single cell. As multicellular organisms began to emerge, their bodies grew more intricate. The first primitive animals, small and soft, lived in the waters that had once nurtured their ancestors. They moved as a single unit, their cells working together in harmony to ensure their survival. And while they may have been small, their impact on the world was immense. From these humble beginnings, the foundation for all future life was laid. The beauty of this evolutionary journey lies not in the grand gestures of nature, but in the quiet, everyday acts of cooperation. The way each cell found its place within the whole, the way the heart learned to beat, the lungs to breathe, and the eyes to see, all of these born from the silent, unwavering trust between cells. As life continued to evolve, this dance of cooperation would grow more sophisticated, and the body would become more complex, more capable, more connected. But even as complexity grew, the lesson of cooperation remained at the heart of every living being. No matter how large or small, no matter how complex or simple, every organism still relied on the delicate dance of cells working together. The human body, as magnificent as it is built on the same fundamental truth. Cooperation is the foundation of life. The cells that make up your body, your skin, your blood, your bones, your brain, are all working in unison, just as the first cells did billions of years ago. There is something deeply humbling about this truth. We are not solitary beings, we are part of something greater. The cells that make us who we are learn to trust one another, to share, and to thrive together. And in that shared journey, they created life as we know it. From the first spark of life to the complex systems that make us who we are, evolution is the story of connection, of cooperation, and of the power of working together. As you breathe, as your heart beats, as you think and move, remember that these actions are the product of billions of years of evolution, and behind every single one of them, behind every moment of life, lies the silent, beautiful truth that life is not built alone. It is built together. And in this truth, there is a quiet beauty, a peace that echoes throughout time. From the first spark of life to this very moment, the story of evolution continues, a story not just of survival, but of the boundless power of unity. The bones we carry today are not the same bones that once formed the first living creatures. They have changed, adapted, and evolved over countless generations. The story of bones is one of transformation, a transformation driven by the need for survival, for movement, for protection. When life first emerged from the oceans, it was without form, without structure. It was soft and malleable, with bodies that were fluid and free, able to bend and move with the waters. But life on land was different. The solid earth beneath would require something stronger, something more rigid. And so the dance of bones and flesh began. At first, there were no bones at all. The earliest creatures that crawled along the shores were soft-bodied, like the jellyfish and the worms of today. Their forms were flexible, their movement gentle and unhurried. But as the tides of evolution ebbed and flowed, so too did the need for greater protection. Life began to harden. In the depths of the oceans, some creatures began to develop exoskeletons, a hard, protective outer layer to shield them from the harsh world around them. This was the first glimpse of what would eventually become the bones that would support all life. The first true bones emerged in fish, creatures of the sea. They were simple, small, and made from cartilage, a substance not as rigid as bone, but tough enough to provide support. These first fish had a skeleton that allowed them to move more efficiently, to chase prey and avoid predators. The bones were not yet the sturdy structures we know today, but they were a step in the right direction. And as these fish evolved, so too did their bones. Some fish, over millions of years, began to leave the waters and venture onto land. It was here that bones truly began to take shape. The simple cartilage structures that had once supported their bodies grew stronger and more rigid. The bones began to form the backbone, a column of strength that would support the weight of the body. With each step on land, evolution refined the design of the bones, shaping them to withstand the forces of gravity. They were no longer soft and pliable, they were tough and unyielding, designed to hold the body upright and allow movement across the earth. As creatures continued to evolve, so too did their bones. The bones of early land animals were simple, but as the body became more complex, so did the structure of the skeleton. New bones began to form, new joints appeared, and the skeleton became a sophisticated system that could support not only the body's weight, but also its movement, flexibility, and strength. It was a slow process, a quiet dance of bones and flesh, shaping life with every twist and turn. Through millions of years, bones adapted to the needs of the creatures that carried them. The bones of birds became light and hollow, allowing them to take flight. The bones of mammals grew strong and dense, built for running, climbing, and hunting. Each bone, each joint, each tendon was shaped by the forces of nature and the demands of life. And in this slow, beautiful dance of form and function, the bodies of creatures became more intricate, more specialized, more finely tuned to their environment. The bones we carry today are the legacy of this ancient dance. They are not just structures that hold us up, they are the story of survival, of strength, of movement. Every bone tells the story of our ancestors, of the creatures that crawled from the sea and walked upon the earth. And as you sit here, feeling the weight of your own bones, remember that they are not just the support for your body, they are the remnants of an ancient dance that has shaped life for billions of years. As bones began to solidify and structures took form, life found itself shaped not just by the land, but by the forces that acted upon it. The dance of bones and flesh grew more intricate as the body became not just a collection of parts, but a system of purposeful design. The connection between bones and muscles deepened, for it was not enough for bones to simply hold the body up. They needed to work in harmony with the muscles to create motion, to allow movement across the earth. The skeleton, once a simple framework, was now becoming a complex and coordinated system. In the early creatures that roamed the earth, the bones were not yet finely tuned for specific tasks. The early reptiles, with their sprawling, low-slung bodies, were built for endurance. Their bones, while strong, were heavy, and therefore their movements were slow and deliberate. But evolution, as always, had plans for change. The creatures that would come next would demand a new way of moving, a new kind of structure that would allow them to run, leap, and explore the world in ways that had never been imagined. As evolution unfolded, the bones of the first mammals adapted in response to new needs. Their legs grew more upright, lifting their bodies off the ground, and their hips and shoulders shifted, allowing for faster, more efficient movement. The heavy, sprawling form of the reptile was replaced with the sleek, flexible body of the mammal. The bones of the skeleton became more efficient, lighter, and more capable of supporting quick, agile movements. It was through this process that life began to explore the ground, the air, and the water in new ways. For mammals, the bones of the legs, the spine, and the pelvis became central to the body's design. The leg bones, which had once been simple and straight, now began to curve and bend in ways that allowed for greater speed and strength. The spine, which had once been rigid and simple, became more flexible, able to bend and twist in ways that provided greater freedom of movement. The pelvis, that crucial connection between the spine and the legs, became more specialized, more finely tuned to the needs of the body. These changes were not random, nor were they quick. The evolution of bones is a slow and patient process, one that takes millions of years. But in those long, slow stretches of time, the bones of mammals were transformed. They were not just passive supports for the body, they became active players in the dance of life. The evolution of the skeleton allowed for greater movement, greater agility, and greater expression of the body's potential. The bones that once supported slow, lumbering creatures now allowed for the swift, agile movements of predators and prey alike. As mammals continued to evolve, so did the bones that supported them. The bones of the hands and feet, once simple and utilitarian, became more specialized. In the great apes, the fingers became nimble, capable of grasping and manipulating objects. In humans, the feet, once designed for walking on all fours, evolved to support upright walking, changing the structure of the pelvis, spine, and legs. Every change, every shift in the bones allowed for greater interaction with the environment. The body became more flexible, more capable, and more attuned to the world around it. Through this slow dance of evolution, bones became the living evidence of life's ability to adapt. They tell the story of creatures that walked on 4 legs, then 2, that soared through the air and swam through the seas. Every twist, every turn of the bone, every bend of the joint is a testament to the body's incredible ability to respond to the world around it. The bones we carry today are not just the result of a static past. They are living records of a journey that has spanned millions of years, a journey that is still unfolding one step at a time. As the evolution of bones continued, the connection between form and function became even clearer. The bones we now carry are not just designed to support the body, they are intricately shaped to allow us to interact with the world in profound ways. Each bone tells the story of a journey through time, through change, through adaptation. And yet the story of bones is not just about the body, it is about the very essence of what it means to be alive. With each passing moment, the bones in your body are working in concert with the muscles, the joints, and the nervous system. They are the silent foundation upon which the rest of the body stands. But bones are not static. They are living, breathing parts of you. They grow, they repair themselves, they change in response to the forces placed upon them. Every time you move, every time you lift something, your bones respond, adjusting their strength, their shape, and their structure to meet the demands of the moment. It is this remarkable adaptability that makes bones not just supports, but partners in the dance of life. Through the centuries, the bones that began as simple structures for support have evolved into highly specialized systems capable of enduring the stresses of life. From the moment you take your first step as a child to the moment you stretch your arm to reach for the stars, your bones are there, working silently behind the scenes, supporting you every step of the way. But bones, in their quiet strength, also carry memories. They bear the marks of time, the fractures healed, the growth spurred by exercise, the calcification that happens as we age. Your bones are like the pages of a storybook, each one etched with the experiences you've had throughout your life. Every movement, every impact, every challenge you face leaves a mark, a subtle reminder of what your body has gone through. The strength in your bones comes not only from their solid structure, but from the wisdom they carry. And yet the bones of today are not the end of the story. The evolution of bones continues even now. As we stand on the brink of new discoveries, new technologies, and new ways of understanding the body, we find that the bones we carry are more than just relics of the past. They are the foundations of the future. With advances in medicine, we are learning to repair bones that once would have been irreparably broken. We are learning how to strengthen them, how to guide them as they heal, how to even grow new bone tissue. In the distant future, perhaps the bones of humans will adapt to the challenges of space travel or the demands of a changing environment. Maybe they will grow even stronger, more resilient, or more flexible as we continue to evolve in ways we can scarcely imagine. But for now, the bones we carry are a living testament to the journey that life has made. They are reminders of the ancient dance of bones and flesh, a dance that began long before our ancestors first set foot on the land, and a dance that will continue as long as life persists. So as you sit quietly, feel the weight of your bones beneath your skin. Feel the quiet strength that runs through your body, connecting you to a history far older than you can imagine. The bones that hold you up today are the product of millions of years of evolution. They carry within them the stories of creatures long gone, of life's struggles, its triumphs, and its relentless desire to survive. They are the silent partners in the dance of life, and they will continue to shape you just as they have shaped every living being before you. The dance of bones and flesh is not just a story of structure, but of movement, of change, and of the quiet power that lies within each of us. It is the story of how life learns to move through the world, how it adapts, and how it thrives. And in this dance we are all connected, bound by the same bones that once supported the first steps of life on land. At the very core of every living being, there is a hidden symphony, an intricate set of instructions that guides the creation and development of life. It is within these tiny invisible molecules, known as genes, that the secrets of our bodies are written. But these genes are not just codes, they are the architects of life itself. They decide the colour of our eyes, the shape of our bones, and the rhythm of our heart. Genes are the silent architects that with every passing moment shape us, mold us, and guide us toward who we will become. Imagine for a moment the first spark of life on Earth. In the primordial waters, a simple cell divides, carrying within it the instructions for everything that will follow. The molecules that made up that cell were primitive, but the genes within them contained the potential for something far greater. These genes, passed down through generations, carried the wisdom of life, how to grow, how to survive, how to adapt. And with every new cell that was born, these instructions were passed on, creating the foundations for all future life. The genes that built the first simple organisms were simple themselves, tiny fragments of information that directed how cells should behave, how they should divide, and how they should work together. But as life grew more complex, so too did the instructions within the genes. The genetic code, once a simple set of directions, became a vast, intricate language, one that could not only guide the development of simple organisms, but could also shape the complexities of life as we know it today. Within every cell of your body there is a miniature blueprint, a genetic code that guides every aspect of your being. It is not just a list of instructions, it is a living, breathing system that adapts and changes as you grow. From the moment you were conceived, your genes began their work, telling your body when to grow, when to develop, and when to form the structures that would become you. These instructions, passed down through generations, are the legacy of life itself, carried forward through time, through each cell, through every generation. The journey of life begins with a single cell, but the blueprint of life is written in the genes within that cell. Every gene contains the history of life, every mutation, every adaptation, every change that has occurred over millions of years. These changes are not random. They are shaped by the needs of life, by the environment in which an organism lives, and by the challenges it faces. Every change, every adaptation is written into the very fabric of life, encoded in the genes that form the basis of all living things. As the first creatures emerged from the oceans and crawled onto land, their genes began to adapt to this new environment. The instructions within their genetic code were refined, reshaped by the demands of life on land. Over millions of years, the genetic code became more sophisticated, more capable of creating complex forms of life. The body, whether it was a simple fish, a towering tree, or a human being, was shaped by the instructions encoded within its genes. These genes are the true architects, the hidden masterminds behind the design of all life. And yet these architects are not just creators, they are also the keepers of the past. Every gene contains within it the story of life's history, the legacy of all the generations that have come before us. When we look at our bodies, when we see the way our skin stretches or our hearts beat, we are witnessing the handiwork of those first genetic architects. It is through the lens of our genes that we understand where we come from, how life has changed, and how we are connected to the past. The story of life, of how we came to be, is written in the language of genes. It is a story that spans millions of years, a tale of adaptation, survival, and change. From the first spark of life to the complex organisms that roam the earth today, the architects of life have been there, quietly shaping, guiding, and building. The genes that created the first cells are the same ones that shape us today, and in the hidden depths of these genes, we find the answers to the questions of life. Who are we? Where did we come from? And what will we become? As the story of life continued, the complexity of the genetic code grew more profound. What once started as a simple set of instructions guiding the formation of basic life forms soon evolved into a sophisticated blueprint that shaped every intricate detail of living beings. Genes, in their silent yet powerful role, began to influence not just the basic structure of organisms, but the very essence of their existence. With each new generation, the instructions became more refined, more detailed, more capable of creating life forms that could not only survive but thrive in an ever-changing world. From the earliest single-celled organisms to the vast diversity of creatures that walk the earth today, genes have been at the helm of this journey, guiding the formation of bodies in all their complexity. And yet, even as life grew more intricate, the core function of genes remained unchanged. They were the architects of life, the builders of form. These silent creators work not just to form the body, but to shape its functions, its movement, and its interactions with the world around it. Imagine, for a moment, the evolutions of the human body. From the first spark of life, we evolved into creatures capable of walking upright, of thinking, of creating. But the genes that guided these changes were not just shaping bones and muscles, they were shaping the very systems that allowed us to breathe, to see, to feel. The intricate workings of the brain, the way our organs communicate with one another, the way our bodies respond to the environment, these are all directed by the genetic code. The blueprint within our cells holds the instructions for everything that makes us human. But the story of genes is not just about the creation of bodies, it is also about the survival of life. Through the process of natural selection, genes have evolved not just to create but to adapt. Life, as we know it, has not just endured, it has adapted to the changing world around it. From the smallest bacteria to the largest mammals, genes have guided life through the ebb and flow of time, ensuring that life remains not only possible but resilient. Every time the environment changes, every time a new challenge arises, it is the genes that hold the keys to survival. This process of adaptation is a dance between genes and environment, a delicate balance between stability and change. As life encounters new challenges, whether it is the need to find food, the need to reproduce, or the need to survive in a changing climate, genes are the architects that build the solutions. Over time, small changes in the genetic code accumulate, creating organisms that are better suited to their environments, better equipped to thrive. What was once an evolutionary advantage becomes embedded in the genetic code, passed down from one generation to the next, creating a legacy of survival that spans millions of years. The changes that occur within the genetic code are not always dramatic. Often they are small shifts, tiny tweaks that might go unnoticed in the grand scheme of things. Yet these small changes accumulate over generations, and they shape the course of life in profound ways. The process of mutation, while seemingly random, is guided by the genetic code itself, by the instructions that determine how life should evolve. Mutations are the sparks of creativity within the genetic code, providing the raw material for evolution to work with, guiding life toward new forms, new possibilities. Every mutation, every adaptation, every change in the genetic code is a step in the ongoing journey of life. And as these changes accumulate, they create the vast diversity of life that we see around us today. The genes that built the first simple organisms are the same ones that shape the bodies of the creatures that walk, fly, and swim across the earth. These genes have evolved, they have adapted, and they continue to shape the world of life, guiding it through the challenges of time and space. As you look around the world today, as you witness the endless variety of life forms that exist, remember that each one of them carries within it a story written in the genetic code. Every living thing, from the smallest insect to the largest whale, is shaped by the same basic principles, by the genes that build bodies and guide life. The hidden architects are at work in every living being, designing, creating, and adapting life in all its forms. And with every generation they continue their work, shaping life for the future, just as they have shaped life for the past. As we look deeper into the role of genes in shaping life, we find that their influence extends beyond the simple construction of bodies. Genes are the architects not only of form but of function, behavior, and potential. It is through genes that life learns to adapt, to thrive, and to survive in the ever-changing world around it. From the first breath of a newborn to the final moments of life, the genetic code is there, guiding, shaping, and directing the body's responses to the world. Within our genes lies not only the blueprint for how we look and how we function, but also the instructions for how we interact with the world. Genes influence everything, from the way our body reacts to light, to how we process emotions, to how we respond to the food we eat. These instructions are not random. They are written in the very structure of our DNA, passed down through generations, refined and perfected by millions of years of evolution. But genes are not just passive records of the past. They are active participants in the ongoing process of life. Every time a new challenge arises, every time the environment changes, genes are there, providing the tools to adapt. The genetic code is flexible, capable of responding to the needs of life. Whether it's through a slight mutation or a more dramatic shift, genes have the ability to adapt, to adjust, and to evolve in response to the world. This adaptability is one of the most powerful aspects of the genetic code. It allows life to flourish in a variety of environments, from the depths of the oceans to the highest mountains, from the Arctic tundra to the hot deserts. The genetic code is a living, breathing system capable of changing in response to the ever-shifting tides of life. And it is this adaptability that has allowed life to endure for billions of years, to survive through the most extreme challenges, and to continue its journey through time. But the story of genes is not just about survival, it's also about creativity. Genes are not simply machines that respond to the environment. They are the artists that paint the world of life in its infinite variety. It is through the interplay of genes that we see the extraordinary diversity of life on Earth. From the brilliant colours of a butterfly's wings to the unique patterns of an animal's fur, the genetic code is the artist's brush, creating the stunning beauty of life in all its forms. In this way, genes are not just builders of bodies, they are creators of life's possibilities. They provide the raw material for evolution to work with, shaping life in ways that we can only begin to understand. The potential for life's diversity is encoded in our genes, waiting to be unlocked by the forces of nature. Each genetic variation, each mutation creates a new possibility, a new path for life to follow. And in this way, genes are not just shaping the past and the present, they are also shaping the future. As life continues to evolve, as new challenges arise and new opportunities emerge, it is the genes that will guide us forward. The story of evolution is not a story of survival alone. It is a story of endless potential, of creativity, and of the unyielding drive of life to grow, to adapt, and to create new possibilities. As you walk through life, remember that the very fabric of your existence is shaped by the invisible architects within you. Your genes, passed down through generations, carry the story of your ancestors, the legacy of life itself. They are the silent architects building not just your body, but your potential, your future. And as you move through the world, interacting with everything around you, your genes continue their work, guiding your body, shaping your responses, and creating the life that you will live. The beauty of this journey lies in the knowledge that deep within each of us, there is a code that has shaped the past, is guiding the present, and will continue to shape the future. It is through the work of these hidden architects that life moves forward, always adapting, always evolving, always creating. The genetic code is the quiet force that drives life's journey, building, shaping, and creating the world as we know it. And in this quiet, invisible work, we find the true power of life itself. The story of life's journey from the water to the land is written in the structure of our limbs. It is a story of change, of adaptation, and of survival. Imagine for a moment the first creatures that lived in the oceans, their bodies perfectly adapted to the environment. Their fins helped them glide through the water, their bodies streamlined for movement in the fluid depths. But the world was changing, and the shoreline, once at a barrier, was beginning to offer new possibilities, new challenges. As life crawled from the oceans to the land, the first creatures to make the transition were faced with an entirely different set of rules. The water, with its buoyancy and support, was no longer their home. The solid earth beneath them required new ways of moving, new ways of holding up their bodies. It was here, on the shore, that the first signs of limbs emerged, small primitive structures that would eventually evolve into the powerful legs and arms that allow us to walk, run, and manipulate the world around us. The earliest creatures to make the transition to land were amphibians, fish-like creatures that had developed small, sturdy fins capable of supporting their weight on land. These primitive limbs were not yet the fully developed legs we know today, but they were the first step in the long journey of adaptation. They had to learn to move in a world where gravity was no longer counteracted by the buoyancy of water, where solid ground posed new challenges. Yet these early limbs were capable of more than simply holding the body up. They allowed the creatures to move, to explore, and to survive in a world beyond the water's edge. As these early creatures crawled across the land, their limbs began to change. Over millions of years, the fins that once helped them swim transformed into fully functional legs. The bones of these limbs grew stronger, capable of supporting more weight, while the muscles grew more powerful, allowing for greater movement. The fin became a foot. The long, thin bones of the fish transformed into the sturdy, weight-bearing bones of land animals. The transformation was gradual, taking millions of years, but with each step, the creatures of the land became more suited to their new environment. The bones of the limbs that supported these early animals grew more specialized. The first true land animals developed a strong backbone, a flexible spine that allowed for greater movement and stability. As the animals continued to evolve, their limbs became more capable of complex movement. The legs of the first amphibians and reptiles became more refined, more efficient, allowing them to walk, run, and explore the land in ways that their aquatic ancestors never could. And yet, even as these early land animals adapted to their new environment, their limbs continued to evolve. The bones of the legs grew stronger, more specialized, and capable of supporting more weight. The muscles that powered these limbs grew larger and more coordinated, giving these animals greater control over their movements. With each change, each shift in the structure of the limbs, the animals became more capable of surviving on land, more able to thrive in an environment that was once hostile to life. The evolution of limbs is a story of adaptation, of life's ability to respond to new challenges. It is a story of the transition from water to land, from the buoyant support of the oceans to the solid earth beneath our feet. And yet, this story is not just about the evolution of bones and muscles, it is about the body's ability to respond, to adapt, and to survive. The limbs we carry today, though vastly different from the fins of our distant ancestors, are the product of millions of years of change, of adaptation, and of the body's quiet, constant drive to thrive. As you sit quietly feeling the weight of your limbs beneath you, remember that they are the product of a long, evolutionary journey. They are the legacy of life's first steps on land, the result of countless changes that have shaped the world we live in today. The limbs that allow you to walk, to run, to reach and touch the world around you are a testament to the power of evolution, to the beauty of adaptation, and to the endless possibility of life. As life continued to adapt to its new environment, the limbs that once supported the early amphibians transformed once again. The creatures that once crawled slowly across the land now began to develop the ability to move with speed and agility. The transition from the water to the land had not been easy, but with each passing generation the body adapted, refined, and evolved. The limbs became more specialized, allowing for faster movement, better maneuverability, and greater strength. With every step, the world of land opened up and the possibilities for life expanded. The evolution of the limb from simple fin to complex leg was not only about survival, it was about the ability to explore new environments, to conquer new territories, and to adapt to the changing world. The early amphibians had been limited in their movements, able to crawl slowly across the ground and swim in the water. But as their limbs became stronger, more coordinated, they were able to venture further, moving across the earth with greater ease. The world that had once been foreign to them was now theirs to explore. The development of legs, strong and efficient, was crucial for this transition. Over millions of years, the bones in the limbs of these creatures began to adapt to the pressures of land life. The bones grew thicker, more robust to support the weight of the body. The joints became more flexible, allowing for greater movement. The muscles too began to change, growing stronger and more coordinated, able to propel the body across the land with greater ease. But the transformation didn't stop at the bones and muscles. The nervous system too adapted to the demands of land life. The body needed to become more responsive, able to coordinate the movement of limbs and the senses more effectively. The brain in turn began to evolve, growing more sophisticated, capable of processing information more quickly, allowing the creatures to react faster to their environment. The entire body, from the limbs to the nervous system, was designed for movement, for action, for survival. It was during this time that the early reptiles emerged, creatures with strong, specialized limbs capable of walking across the land. Their legs were sturdy and powerful, designed to support their bodies as they moved across the earth. These creatures were no longer bound to the water. They had fully embraced life on land. The evolution of their limbs had allowed them to conquer new environments, to escape predators, and to hunt for food more efficiently. With each step, their legs grew more powerful, more specialized, and more attuned to the world around them. The limbs of the reptiles, while powerful, were still relatively simple compared to the complexity of the limbs we see today. Their legs were designed for walking, for movement, for survival, but they lacked the refinement seen in mammals. Yet even in these early reptiles, we see the beginnings of the diverse range of limbs that would evolve in the future. Limbs designed for running, for climbing, for swimming, for flight. The potential for diversity was built into the very structure of the limb itself. As evolution continued, the limbs that began with simple fins grew more complex, more specialized. Over millions of years, these early reptiles gave rise to a wide variety of creatures, mammals, birds, and other reptiles, all with their own unique adaptations. The limbs of each creature were shaped by the demands of its environment, whether it was running across the plains, climbing trees, or flying through the sky. Each adaptation was a response to the needs of the animal, to the forces of nature that shaped its existence. The evolution of the limb was a process of constant refinement, of trial and error, of survival and change. Today, the limbs we carry are the product of millions of years of change. The legs that carry us across the land, the arms that allow us to reach and touch, the fingers that help us grasp and manipulate, are all the result of this long journey. They are the legacy of the creatures that first crawled from the oceans, the result of countless adaptations and transformations that have shaped the way we live. Our limbs are not just tools of movement, they are the culmination of a long and beautiful journey, a journey of adaptation, survival, and change. So as you move through the world, remember the history written in your limbs, feel the strength in your legs, the power in your arms, and the potential in your body. Your limbs are the product of an ancient journey, one that began in the waters and continues on the land. They carry with them the story of life's ability to adapt, to survive, and to thrive, one step at a time. As the evolution of limbs continued, the journey of life on land took on new dimensions. The land, once a foreign world for early creatures, was becoming a place of endless opportunity. Life was no longer limited by the buoyancy of water, and the challenges of solid ground pushed organisms to evolve in ever more creative ways. The limbs, once simple tools for movement, became specialized in a myriad of forms, each one shaped by the environment and the specific needs of the creatures that lived there. Over time, the evolution of the limb began to reflect the incredible diversity of life that emerged on land. The first land creatures had simple functional limbs, strong enough to hold their bodies up and allow them to move across the earth. But as the environment shifted and new challenges arose, the limbs evolved into specialized structures, each one serving a unique purpose. The need for speed, for flight, for climbing, and for grasping, all of these demands shape the form and function of the limb, creating a vast array of adaptations that allowed life to thrive in a multitude of environments. One of the most striking examples of this diversification is seen in the evolution of the mammal limb. As mammals emerged, their limbs became more specialized for running, jumping, and climbing. The bones in the limbs grew stronger, more robust, to support the increased demands of these activities. The muscles became more coordinated, more efficient, allowing mammals to move with greater speed and agility. The hands and feet, which had once been simple structures, became capable of intricate movements, grasping, manipulating, and climbing. The diversity of life on land depended on the ability of creatures to adapt their limbs to their specific needs, and through these adaptations, life on land flourished. The limbs of birds provide another fascinating example of evolution's creativity. While mammals were adapting to running and climbing, birds took to the skies. The limbs of birds, once simple legs, transformed into wings designed for flight. The bones of the wings became lighter, more aerodynamic, while the muscles grew strong enough to lift the body into the air. Flight required a completely different set of adaptations, limbs that could generate lift, that could maneuver through the air with precision. The evolution of wings was a true marvel of nature as the body adapted to a new way of moving through the world. Similarly, the limbs of aquatic creatures that returned to the water, such as whales and dolphins, underwent dramatic changes. These creatures, once land-dwelling, had evolved limbs that were no longer useful for walking on land. Over time, their limbs became flippers, perfectly suited for life in the water. The bones of the limbs, once designed for walking, became flattened and specialized for swimming. The muscles adapted to provide powerful thrusts, propelling the creatures through the water with speed and grace. These limbs, though different from those of their land-dwelling ancestors, were no less a testament to the power of evolution, showing how life can adapt and thrive in even the most unexpected environments. The process of adapting limbs for different environments has been one of the key drivers of life's success on Earth. The diversity of life forms that inhabit our planet today is a direct result of the countless adaptations that have occurred over millions of years. From the humble beginnings of simple fins to the complex limbs of mammals, birds, and marine animals, the evolution of the limb is a story of survival, creativity, and endless possibility. As humans, we are the product of this long journey. Our limbs, though designed for walking and running, are capable of so much more. The dexterity of our hands, the strength of our legs, and the flexibility of our joints are all the result of millions of years of evolution. But even as we walk upon the earth today, we are still shaped by the same forces that guided the creatures before us. The evolution of our limbs, though it has brought us to new heights of achievement, is still deeply connected to the ancient past. When you move through the world, think about the journey your limbs have made. From the early creatures that crawled from the sea to the modern humans that run, jump, and reach, the evolution of the limb is a testament to the power of adaptation. Your limbs are not just tools for movement. They are the result of millions of years of change, of life responding to the world, of the body evolving in response to its environment. And in every step you take, in every movement you make, you are carrying forward the legacy of those first creatures that ventured onto land, the legacy of the limbs that have shaped the world as we know it. The story of lungs is a story of life's search for air to breathe, to survive, to thrive. It begins in the water, where the first organisms lived in a world where oxygen was dissolved in the depths. For millions of years, life relied on simple forms of respiration, absorbing oxygen through the skin, through gills, or through primitive sacs within their bodies. But as life began its journey from the water to the land, it faced a new challenge: breathing in air. The waters no longer held the oxygen in such abundance, and the creatures that would come to walk on land needed a new way to breathe, to harness the life-giving gas that was so crucial to their survival. The evolution of lungs began long before they took the form we recognize today. Early vertebrates, creatures that lived both in the water and on land, developed primitive lungs, small rudimentary sacs that allowed them to absorb oxygen from the air. These early lungs were not yet the powerful organs that we know today. They were simple, often inefficient, but they allowed life to survive in the harsh, dry conditions of the land. In the beginning, the lungs were a supplement to the gills, which remained the primary means of breathing. But as life continued to evolve and adapt, the lungs became the dominant organ for respiration. The first true lungs began to emerge in the fish that lived at the edges of the water. These fish, which were adapted to both water and land, needed a way to extract oxygen from the air, especially when the waters became low in oxygen or when they ventured onto the land for brief periods. The early lungs were simple, much like the air sacs of modern fish, but they were capable of absorbing oxygen from the air and passing it into the bloodstream. Over millions of years, these simple lungs began to change. They grew larger, more complex, and more efficient, eventually becoming the sophisticated lungs that support the creatures of the land. For the earliest land animals, lungs were not just an organ for survival, they were a lifeline. As creatures ventured further onto land, away from the water, their lungs grew more specialized. The organs that had once been simple sacs began to develop internal structures that allowed them to extract more oxygen from the air. The lungs grew more intricate, developing airways, alveoli, and other features that increased surface area and allowed for more efficient gas exchange. These changes did not happen overnight, but over millions of years, as life adapted to the air and the demands of the land. With the development of these more efficient lungs, life on land began to flourish. The air was no longer a barrier, but a medium for survival. Creatures that once crawled on the ground or swam in the water could now move freely through the air, breathing in the life-giving oxygen they needed. The lungs had become the organ that allowed animals to thrive, to grow, and to evolve in ways that were unimaginable in the water. It was not just a matter of survival anymore. It was a matter of thriving, of exploring new environments, and of expanding the possibilities of life. For mammals, the evolution of lungs reached new heights of sophistication. The simple sacs that began in the first vertebrates became powerful organs capable of supporting complex metabolic systems. The lungs of mammals became finely tuned to the needs of the body. With the ability to breathe more efficiently, mammals could run faster, grow larger, and develop more complex brains. The lungs supported the rapid metabolism that allowed mammals to move quickly, to hunt and to reproduce with great success. But the evolution of lungs wasn't just about breathing, it was about the ability to produce sound. As mammals evolved, so did their ability to use their lungs for communication. The lungs that once simply provided oxygen for survival became instruments of expression. With the development of the voice box, or larynx, mammals began to use their lungs not just for breathing, but for vocalization. The first sounds were simple, perhaps grunts or growls, but over time these sounds became more complex. Mammals began to sing, to call, to communicate with one another. The lungs had become the source of life's breath, and of life's voice. From the first breath taken by the first land creatures to the sophisticated lungs of mammals today, the evolution of the lungs has been a story of adaptation, survival, and expression. The lungs are more than just organs of respiration. They are the organs that connect us to the world, that allow us to communicate, to sing, and to breathe life into our very existence. The journey of the lungs is a journey of life's search for air, for breath, and for the power to sing. As life continued to evolve, the role of the lungs expanded beyond just survival. The complex systems that developed within the lungs were not merely for breathing, they became the gateway for life to thrive in all its forms. While the first lungs served the basic need of obtaining oxygen, the more refined structures of the lungs allowed for increased activity, mobility, and even the development of more sophisticated behaviors. For mammals, the lungs became intricately linked with the heart, circulatory systems, and brain, all of which worked in harmony to fuel a more active and energetic lifestyle. The lungs, with their intricate airways and microscopic alveoli, were designed for efficiency. The inner workings of these organs allowed for an exchange of gases, taking in oxygen and expelling carbon dioxide to happen at incredible rates. With each breath, more oxygen was delivered to the bloodstream, providing the energy needed to fuel the body's growing metabolic demands. The refinement of the lungs enabled early mammals to regulate their body temperature, to run, leap, and eventually to dominate various environments. Yet the lungs did more than simply fuel movement. They became central to communication. It was within these early, developing lungs that the foundation for speech and sound was laid. The movement of air through the lungs, combined with the vocal cords that evolved to produce sound, gave life a voice. What was once a simple act of exhaling to release carbon dioxide now became a means to communicate, to warn, to express emotion, and to connect with others. The lungs had become the engine of a much more profound form of life, the ability to sing, to speak, and to carry the essence of life's messages through sound. The first vocalizations, of course, were not speech in the way we understand it today. For many creatures, the initial sounds were primitive calls, grunts, roars, and growls, used to mark territory, attract mates, or communicate with others in a social group. These early sounds served the basic functions of survival, but they also hinted at something more. The lungs, along with the vocal cords, were beginning to craft the first building blocks of language, a system that would eventually evolve into the highly complex speech patterns we use today. As mammals evolved and became more complex, so too did their vocal abilities. The lungs grew in size and power, capable of supporting longer and more varied sounds. The control over breath and vocalization became increasingly refined, giving rise to the intricate patterns of vocalization we see in many species today. From the songs of birds to the calls of whales to the sophisticated speech of humans, the lungs became the conduit for life's most profound expressions. They enabled creatures to communicate not just through instinct but through intentional sound, opening up new worlds of connection and interaction. The evolution of the lungs for communication did not stop at speech, however. Over time, these organs also became key players in the formation of the music. As human societies developed, the lungs allowed for the creation of complex musical notes and rhythms. With the refinement of the diaphragm, the control over breath became more precise, enabling singers and musicians to manipulate the flow of air and produce a wider range of sounds. The ability to breathe deeply, to hold a note, to sing in harmony, all of these techniques are made possible by the lungs, which serve as the engine for musical expression. In the human body, the lungs are still the most important organs for producing sound. When we sing, when we speak, when we laugh or shout, it is the lungs that fuel those actions, allowing us to express our emotions, our thoughts, and our very being. They are the life-giving breath that carries our words to the ears of others, that creates the sound that fills a room. Through the lungs, we connect with the world in ways that no other organ can match, forming bonds that go beyond simple survival and into the realm of art, culture, and society. But the lungs are more than just functional organs. They are the bridge between our inner world and the outer world. Through our breath, we are connected not only to the people around us, but also to the environment in which we live. The air we breathe sustains us, nourishes us, and connects us to the earth itself. The lungs, in their quiet and often overlooked function, are the silent partners in the ongoing exchange of life's energies. Every breath we take is a reminder of the immense power of the lungs, of their role in sustaining life, and of their ability to carry us through the moments that define our existence. The lungs, which once began as simple sacs in fish and amphibians, are now the powerful organs that allow us to live, to speak, to sing. They are a testament to the ingenuity of evolution, to life's ability to adapt, to thrive and to express itself. From the first breaths of land-dwelling creatures to the symphonies of the human voice, the lungs have played an essential role in the unfolding drama of life. They are not merely organs of survival, they are the lungs of life itself, enabling the very act of breathing and the powerful art of song. As time continued to pass, the evolution of the lungs reached new heights, becoming not just an organ of survival, but an essential tool for complex life. From the moment the first breath was drawn on land, the lungs began to shape the course of life, fueling the body, enabling movement, and giving creatures the capacity to interact with their environment in ways that were unimaginable to their aquatic ancestors. The lungs, once simple and rudimentary, had become central to the functioning of life itself. In the mammals, the lungs continued to evolve, becoming more powerful and specialized, adapting to the needs of life on land. They became more efficient, capable of absorbing more oxygen and expelling more carbon dioxide, meeting the growing demands of active, warm-blooded creatures. With the evolution of diaphragm muscles, mammals were able to take in deeper, more controlled breaths, allowing for greater endurance and energy. The lungs, once passive organs of respiration, became more dynamic, responding to the body's physical activity with precision and adaptability. For some creatures, the evolution of lungs was not limited to land life alone. Marine mammals like whales and dolphins evolved specialized lungs capable of holding large amounts of air, allowing them to dive deep into the ocean where oxygen was scarce. These lungs became finely tuned to the needs of underwater breathing, with adaptations that allowed for long periods of time without breathing, and the ability to efficiently store oxygen for long dives. The lungs of these creatures exemplify the incredible adaptability of this organ, showing how evolution could shape the lungs to meet the demands of life in the vast, unforgiving sea. Meanwhile, birds took to the skies, and the evolution of their lungs was nothing short of extraordinary. The need for flight required a highly efficient respiratory system, one that could supply oxygen quickly to the muscles that powered flight. Birds developed air sacs connected to their lungs, creating a constant flow of air that allowed for a more efficient exchange of gases. This continuous flow of air enabled birds to maintain high levels of activity and metabolic function, keeping them light and agile while they soared through the sky. In birds, the lungs became not just organs of respiration, but engines that powered flight, elevating them above the ground and opening up new realms for exploration. Humans, too, have witnessed the incredible power of the lungs and their role in both survival and expression. The ability to sing, to speak, to communicate, the very foundation of human society, relies on the evolution of the lungs. With the control over breath and sound, humans can convey emotions, thoughts, and stories, connecting with others in ways that go beyond mere survival. The development of language, music, and culture is built upon the foundation of the lungs, which allow humans to produce sound, to share their voices with the world. But beyond the human voice, the lungs continue to play an essential role in the functioning of the body. They are the engine that powers our daily lives, fueling every cell, every tissue, every organ. The oxygen we breathe sustains the processes that keep us alive, allowing us to think, to move, to grow. Without the lungs, life as we know it would not be possible. They are the silent partners in our journey, working behind the scenes to sustain us, to keep us alive and functioning. The lungs, however, are not just passive organs, they are also resilient. They respond to the demands of the body and the challenges of the environment. When we exercise, the lungs increase their capacity to bring in more oxygen, adapting to the heightened needs of the muscles. When we are exposed to harmful substances, such as smoke or pollutants, the lungs work to filter and expel them, protecting the body from harm. The ability of the lungs to adapt to these challenges is a testament to the strength and resilience of this remarkable organ. The lungs, too, are capable of healing. When injured, they begin a slow process of repair, regrowing tissue and restoring function. This remarkable regenerative ability ensures that the lungs can continue their vital work, sustaining life despite the challenges they face. Even in the face of disease such as pneumonia or asthma, the lungs are capable of adapting, using the body's immune system to fight off infections and restore balance. As we look to the future, the lungs will continue to be essential to life. Scientists and medical professionals continue to explore ways to enhance the function of the lungs, to protect them from disease, and to help them regenerate when needed. The field of lung health is advancing rapidly, and with each discovery we come closer to understanding the full potential of this remarkable organ. In the quiet rhythm of each breath we take, the lungs continue their work, supporting the body, fueling life and allowing for the profound expression of sound and song. The evolution of the lungs is a story of life's resilience, adaptability, and creativity. It is a story that has unfolded over millions of years, shaping the course of life on Earth and continuing to shape the lives of all creatures that breathe. From the first breath taken by a land-dwelling creature to the songs of the human voice, the lungs are at the heart of life itself, sustaining us, empowering us, and connecting us to the world in ways we often take for granted. The brain, with its vast network of neurons, is the most powerful organ in the body. It holds the key to our thoughts, our memories, and our actions. Yet the story of the brain is not simply a tale of biological complexity. It is a story of electricity, of electrical impulses that travel through the intricate web of neurons, connecting one part of the brain to another, allowing us to think, to learn, and to experience the world around us. The electricity of thought began long before the first humans walked the earth, beginning in the simplest organisms that relied on basic neural systems to survive. The first signs of neurons appeared in simple primitive creatures whose nervous systems were nothing like the complex webs we have today. These early neural systems were simple, consisting of basic cells that could transmit electrical signals. The cells communicated with each other through small electrical impulses, allowing the organism to respond to stimuli, to sense the environment, and to move in response to that environment. This basic form of electrical communication would be the foundation upon which the complexity of the brain would be built. As life evolved, so did the nervous system. The simple electrical impulses that once guided primitive creatures began to form the more intricate networks of neurons seen in later organisms. Neurons, specialized cells that could transmit electrical signals over long distances, became the central players in the brain's development. Over millions of years, these neurons began to form more sophisticated systems, allowing organisms to process more complex information, to experience emotions, and to perform more intricate movements. The development of the brain was not just a result of the growth of individual neurons. It was a process of organization, of connections forming between different groups of neurons, creating circuits that could process and interpret sensory input. These circuits allowed organisms to learn from their experiences, to remember past events, and to make decisions based on that knowledge. The ability to think, to reason, to plan, all emerge from these early neural circuits. The electricity of thought, once a simple spark of life, became a complex and powerful force that could drive the behavior of an entire organism. In vertebrates, the nervous system became increasingly sophisticated. The brain grew larger, and the number of neurons increased exponentially. These neurons, connected by complex networks of synapses, allowed the brain to process a vast amount of information at once, creating the possibility for higher-level thinking and complex behaviors. As mammals evolved, their brains developed regions that were responsible for different functions: sensory perception, motor control, emotions, memory, and reasoning. The electricity that flowed through the neurons became the key to unlocking the full potential of the brain. For humans, the development of the brain and its intricate network of neurons was nothing short of extraordinary. The human brain, while not the largest in the animal kingdom, is perhaps the most complex, with billions of neurons communicating with each other through trillions of synapses. This network allows humans to experience the world in ways no other species can. From the moment we are born, our neurons begin to form connections, allowing us to learn, to think, and to interact with the world. The electricity of thought, once a simple current in the earliest creatures, has become the foundation of our consciousness. At the heart of this neural communication is the neuron itself. A neuron is a specialized cell that transmits electrical signals. It has three main parts: the cell body, the axon, and the dendrites. The axon carries electrical impulses away from the cell body, while the dendrites receive signals from other neurons. The synapse, the tiny gap between neurons, is where the magic happens. When an electrical impulse reaches the synapse, it triggers the release of chemicals called neurotransmitters, which cross the gap and transmit the signal to the next neuron. This process, occurring billions of times every second, allows the brain to process information and produce thoughts. The development of this neural network was not a random process. It was shaped by evolution, by the pressures of the environment, and by the need for survival. The brain over time adapted to its surroundings, developing new structures, new connections, and new ways of processing information. The ability to think, to reason, to plan, these abilities arose from the increasing complexity of the brain's electrical circuits. The evolution of thought, of consciousness, is a story of electrical impulses traveling through a vast network of neurons, creating patterns of activity that define who we are. The electricity of thought is what allows us to create, to imagine, to dream. It is what allows us to connect with others, to feel empathy, to understand the world around us. It is the foundation of every human experience, from the most basic actions to the most complex ideas. And at the heart of it all is the neuron, the cell that carries the electrical impulses that make thought, memory, and action possible. The story of the brain is the story of how electricity, in the form of neural impulses, shaped the evolution of life and how it continues to shape the very essence of who we are. As the complexity of the brain grew, so did the sophistication of the electrical impulses that traveled through the neurons. The brain became capable of handling more than just simple reflexes or basic survival instincts. It began to process abstract thoughts, to create memories, to imagine the future. The network of neurons, each firing in a highly coordinated manner, allowed for the emergence of higher cognitive functions. The electricity of thought was no longer just the transmission of signals from one neuron to another. It became the basis for consciousness itself. In humans, the brain grew even more intricate. The frontal lobe, responsible for decision-making, problem-solving, and complex thought, became more developed. The brain was no longer just an organ for responding to the environment. It became an organ of creativity, planning, and reflection. The electricity flowing through the neurons allowed for not only the recognition of patterns, but the creation of entirely new ones. Humans began to dream, to theorize, to invent. The electrical impulses that once guided simple reflexes now drove an entirely new realm of human experience: thought. The connections between neurons, the synapses, became more refined, more efficient. The brain's capacity for learning grew exponentially as more and more connections were made. What was once an infant brain, unable to process complex thoughts, became a powerful organ capable of abstract reasoning, language, and even self-awareness. Every experience, every interaction with the world left a trace in the brain, a connection formed between neurons that allowed the individual to remember, to learn, and to grow. The process was continuous, evolving throughout a lifetime as the brain adapted to new experiences and challenges. Neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to reorganize itself and form new neural connections, was the key to this constant evolution. The brain was not a static organ. It was dynamic, always changing, always adapting. As we encounter new information, our brains form new pathways, strengthening the connections between neurons. This ability to adapt, to learn, to grow, is what allows us to not only survive but to thrive in an ever-changing world. The electricity of thought, once a simple impulse, became the driving force behind our ability to learn and adapt to new situations. The complexity of the brain's electrical activity is also what allows for emotions, memories, and consciousness. When we experience something, it is the electrical impulses in our brain that encode those experiences into memories. The hippocampus, a small region of the brain, plays a crucial role in this process, converting short-term memories into long-term ones. The emotions we feel, joy, sadness, fear, are all a result of electrical signals traveling through different parts of the brain, activating specific regions responsible for processing these emotions. Our consciousness, the awareness we have of ourselves and our surroundings, is the product of millions of neurons working together in harmony, creating a continuous stream of electrical activity that forms the essence of who we are. In addition to emotions and memories, the electricity of thought also shapes the way we perceive the world. Our senses, the ability to see, hear, touch, taste, and smell, are all the result of electrical impulses in the brain. When light enters the eye, it is converted into electrical signals that travel to the visual cortex, where the brain processes these signals to create the image we see. The same happens with sound, touch, and taste. Each sense is translated into electrical impulses that the brain interprets. Without the electrical impulses traveling through the neurons, we would have no perception of the world around us. The electricity of thought not only allows us to interpret the world, it allows us to experience it in its full complexity. But the brain's ability to process and respond to the world is not limited to just sensory input. It is also responsible for controlling the body, for regulating vital functions like breathing, heartbeat, and digestion. The brainstem at the base of the brain is responsible for these essential processes, sending electrical signals to the body to ensure that it functions properly. Without the electrical impulses from the brain, the body would not be able to maintain the homeostasis necessary for survival. The brain's electrical activity, in this sense, is the life force that sustains the body. The power of the brain's electrical impulses is also what allows for the development of higher-order functions such as language, mathematics, and abstract thinking. When we speak, it is the brain's electrical activity that coordinates the muscles involved in speech. The motor cortex sends electrical signals to the muscles of the mouth, tongue, and vocal cords, allowing us to form words and sentences. When we solve a problem or perform complex calculations, it is the neurons firing in a synchronized pattern that allow us to process the information and come to a conclusion. The electricity of thought gives us the ability to think beyond the present moment, to reason, to plan, and to imagine. The evolution of neurons and the electricity that powers them has allowed life on Earth to reach its current level of complexity. From the simplest organisms that used basic electrical signals to survive, to the highly complex brains of mammals and humans, the ability of neurons to transmit electrical impulses has been the foundation of all life. The electricity of thought is not just a biological process. It is the very essence of what it means to be alive, to think, to feel, to perceive the world around us. It is through these electrical impulses that we are able to understand ourselves, to communicate, and to connect with the world in ways that no other organism can. As the brain continued to evolve, its electrical activity became increasingly sophisticated, allowing for more complex and refined thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. The electricity of thought had transformed from simple signals between neurons to a symphony of interconnected networks, orchestrating the complex operations of the mind. The more intricate the connections, the more capable the brain became of processing vast amounts of information, enabling us to navigate the world with remarkable precision and insight. Every action, every thought, every emotion was now guided by the electrical impulses traveling between billions of neurons, each firing with purpose and coordination. But the evolution of the brain did not stop there. The development of consciousness itself marked a new frontier in the electrical activity of the brain. Consciousness, the awareness of our thoughts, actions, and surroundings, was the result of a new level of neural complexity. It was as if the brain had developed a reflective ability, allowing it to examine itself, to question its own existence, and to think about thinking. This process of metacognition opened the door to self-awareness, to introspection, and to the creation of identity. The electricity of thought now powered not just reactions to the external world, but the ability to look inward and make sense of our experiences. The human mind, with its vast potential for self-awareness and creativity, is built upon this foundation of electrical impulses. From the simplest of reflexes to the highest forms of abstract thinking, every thought is a product of the brain's electrical activity. The circuits that once served the most basic functions, breathing, movement, and survival, have evolved into the circuits that enable us to ponder the meaning of life, to appreciate art, to contemplate the future. What began as a simple system for processing sensory input has blossomed into an intricate, dynamic network capable of generating some of the most profound experiences in the animal kingdom. The electrical activity in the brain also gave rise to a more complex understanding of time and space. Neurons in the brain, particularly in the hippocampus, helped creatures, humans included, learn to navigate the world. The brain's ability to encode spatial relationships and remember past events allowed early creatures to find their way back to familiar places, to recognize threats, and to plan for the future. This ability to map the environment in the brain and recall past experiences was key to the survival of species, and it allowed for the development of long-term memory, an essential tool for navigating the complexities of life. With the development of language, the electricity of thought grew even more powerful. The brain's electrical circuits, responsible for speech and communication, allowed early humans to share their experiences, to collaborate, and to build relationships. Language became a tool for transmitting knowledge, for expressing ideas, and for creating culture. The electrical impulses that traveled through the neurons of the brain enabled humans to connect with each other, to create communities, and to build societies. Language not only shaped the human experience, it allowed for the advancement of civilization itself. But even as language allowed for greater connection, the electricity of thought also led to the rise of imagination. It was through the creative use of neural networks that humans began to envision new worlds, new possibilities, and new futures. Imagination allowed for the creation of art, literature, and innovation. The brain's electrical activity could now generate visions of what had never been seen before, ideas that had never been conceived. The same electrical impulses that allowed humans to perceive the world around them also allowed them to transform it, to bend reality with the power of thought. The electricity of thought also brought about the ability to empathize, to connect with others on an emotional level. Through the complex networks of neurons responsible for emotional processing, humans were able to feel compassion, to understand the pain and joy of others, and to form deep emotional bonds. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, became one of the most profound aspects of human experience. It allowed humans to form societies, to care for one another, and to build the foundations of cooperation and trust. The electricity of thought not only powered our cognitive abilities, but also our emotional lives, enriching the human experience and creating the bonds that tie us together. The power of neurons and the electricity of thought continues to shape the world today. In modern humans, the brain's electrical impulses continue to guide our actions, our creativity, and our interactions with the world. From the simple act of breathing to the complex process of solving problems, every action, every decision is driven by the intricate networks of neurons communicating with each other. The human brain, with its billions of neurons firing in harmony, remains one of the most sophisticated systems known to science. The journey of the brain's electrical activity, from simple signals to complex thought, from survival to self-awareness, reflects the evolution of life itself. The brain, with its ability to process information, to adapt to new challenges, and to create new ideas, is the culmination of billions of years of evolution. The electricity of thought is not just the foundation of consciousness, it is the foundation of life's creativity, its resilience, and its potential. It is through the electricity of thought that life continues to evolve, to adapt, and to reach new heights of understanding and expression. As you ponder your own thoughts, feel the intricate dance of neurons firing in your mind. Feel the electricity of thought, the power of your brain, shaping the world you experience. From the most basic reflex to the deepest contemplation, the brain is the source of your experience, the engine of your awareness. The electricity of thought continues to shape your life, just as it has shaped the lives of all creatures, from the simplest organisms to the most complex minds that have ever existed. The story of thought is the story of life itself, unfolding through the electrical impulses that connect us all. The story of vision is the story of light itself, of how life learned to perceive the world in the dazzling array of colours, shapes, and movements that surround it. It begins not with the sharp eyes of birds or the complex vision of humans, but with the simplest forms of light detection in the earliest organisms that lived in the deep waters of Earth's primordial oceans. For these early creatures, light was not something to be seen, but something to be sensed. A faint presence, a change in the environment that told them whether they were in light or darkness, whether they were near the surface or deep in the depths. At first, vision was not a complex process. Early organisms had light-sensitive cells that could detect the difference between light and dark, a rudimentary sense that allowed them to orient themselves, to seek shelter from the burning rays of the sun, or to emerge into the light when needed. These simple light-sensing cells were scattered across the bodies of these creatures, each one reacting to the shifting patterns of light around them. There was no vision in the way we understand it today, no ability to form detailed images, but there was the beginning of a response to the world around them, a simple connection between the organism and its environment. The first true eyes began to emerge in creatures that lived in the shallow waters, where light played an important role in survival. These early eyes were simple, made up of a few light-sensitive cells gathered together into a small pit or cup. This structure allowed the organism to detect light direction, creating a rudimentary sense of the world around it. It was not yet the ability to see in full detail, but it was a step forward. These simple eyes allowed early creatures to detect changes in light intensity, giving them the ability to navigate the world with greater precision. They could seek shelter when the sun was too bright, or move toward the surface when they needed the warmth and energy of the sun. Over time, these primitive eyes evolved, becoming more complex and more capable of providing a detailed view of the world. The eye began to develop a lens, a transparent structure that focused light onto a group of light-sensitive cells, much like the lens of a modern camera. This lens allowed the early eye to gather more light, to focus it more clearly, and to form a sharper image. What was once a simple sense of light and dark became the beginning of true vision, the ability to see shapes, to detect movement, and to form a mental picture of the world. With this new ability to see, life in the waters flourished. The eyes of early fish and other marine creatures became more refined, better able to detect predators and prey, to navigate through the ever-changing waters. The development of better vision opened up new possibilities for survival. Creatures could now see the world in more detail, allowing them to react faster, to find food more easily, and to avoid danger. As eyes grew more sophisticated, life on Earth became more dynamic, more vibrant, more connected to the world of light. The development of the eye was not a simple linear process. It was driven by a series of evolutionary pressures, by the need for survival, by the demands of the environment. Some creatures developed more sophisticated eyes, with sharper lenses, while others evolved different forms of vision, adapting their eyes to their specific environments. For example, deep-sea creatures, where light is scarce, developed eyes that were more sensitive to the faintest traces of light. Some animals, like bats, developed eyes that were less useful for seeing, but became capable of using sound for echolocation, a form of seeing through sound waves. The evolution of the eye was not just about developing better vision, it was about developing vision that was suited to the specific needs of the creature. On land, the evolution of vision took a different path. As creatures emerged from the water and adapted to life on land, their eyes had to adjust to new challenges. The bright sunlight, the need to detect predators and prey at greater distances, and the requirement to navigate the varied terrain, all of these factors influenced the development of the eye. Early land creatures had to evolve eyes that could handle the intensity of sunlight with protective structures like eyelids and lenses that could filter out excess light. The evolution of colour vision, allowing creatures to detect the full spectrum of colours, also played a critical role, allowing them to identify food, mates, and dangers more easily. What had once been a simple sense of light had evolved into a sophisticated system of vision, capable of processing a wide range of information about the environment. The eyes of mammals, birds, and reptiles were further refined to meet the needs of life on land. Some creatures developed eyes that were perfectly suited to hunting, with excellent depth perception and sharp focus. Others developed eyes that could see in dim light, allowing them to hunt at night or navigate through dark forests. Some evolved eyes that could see in great detail, while others adapted their eyes to detect movement more effectively. The diversity of vision on land and became as varied as the creatures themselves, with each species adapting its eyes to the specific challenges it faced. For humans, the development of the eye marked a major turning point in the evolution of vision. Human eyes, like those of many land animals, are capable of perceiving the full spectrum of visible light. Our eyes have evolved to allow us to detect a wide range of colours, shapes, and movements, providing us with a rich and detailed view of the world. But human vision is not just about survival, it is also about beauty, about the ability to appreciate the world around us, the colours we see, the shapes we recognise, the patterns we detect. These are all part of what makes human vision so unique. The human eye allows us to see not just for survival, but to experience the world in a way that is emotionally rich, deeply connected to the environment, and profoundly beautiful. As evolution continued, the function of the eye expanded beyond just survival. The eyes that once simply allowed creatures to detect light and dark, or to distinguish between shadows and sunlight, gradually evolved to form a much more detailed and dynamic picture of the world around them. Vision became more than a passive response to light. It became an active tool for perceiving and interacting with the environment. Eyes began to form sharper images to capture more detail and to perceive a greater range of visual information, shapes, colours, textures, and movement. The retina, the part of the eye that detects light, developed specialised cells capable of distinguishing not just the presence or absence of light, but the fine details of the world. The evolution of the eye was shaped by the challenges faced by each species. For some animals, the ability to see colour was essential for detecting food or finding mates. For others, the ability to see in low-light conditions or in the dark became the most important adaptation. Deep-sea creatures, where light is scarce, developed eyes capable of capturing the slightest glimmer of light. Animals that lived in dense forests or caves evolved large, sensitive eyes that could detect even the faintest movements. In contrast, animals that lived in open spaces evolved eyes designed for sharp focus and long-distance vision, allowing them to spot predators and prey from afar. The evolution of vision was not a single uniform process, but one that responded to the specific needs and environments of each creature. Birds, with their highly developed vision, became experts in detecting fine details and colours. Many birds, for instance, have a keen sense of colour vision, which allows them to distinguish between subtle variations in colour that are invisible to most other animals. Their eyes have evolved to detect ultraviolet light, enabling them to see patterns on flowers or feathers that we cannot perceive. Birds of prey, such as eagles and hawks, have sharp vision capable of seeing prey from hundreds of meters away. Their eyes are adapted to allow them to spot the smallest movements, giving them an incredible advantage when hunting. The evolution of the bird's eye is an example of how the needs of the environment shape the structure and capabilities of the eye. In mammals, the evolution of vision took a different route. Early mammals, most of which were nocturnal, developed eyes adapted for low-light conditions. Their eyes became larger with a greater number of rod cells that helped them see in dim environments. As mammals began to emerge from the shadows and become more active during the day, their eyes adapted to handle bright sunlight. The development of colour vision allowed mammals to better distinguish between objects in their environment, making it easier to find food, navigate terrain, and communicate with one another. Humans, as diurnal creatures, evolved to have eyes capable of seeing in bright light and at long distances. Our eyes are fine-tuned for detecting colour, depth, and detail. The fovea, the part of the retina responsible for sharp central vision, is densely packed with cone cells that help us perceive colour in vivid detail. Our vision allows us to navigate complex environments, recognise faces, and enjoy the visual beauty of the world around us. Yet our vision is not just about survival, it is also about art, culture, and creativity. We use our eyes to paint pictures, to watch movies, to read books, and to connect with one another. The human eye, more than any other, allows us to interact with the world in a deep emotional way, appreciating the beauty of the world, the expressions on a loved one's face, and the intricate patterns of nature. In addition to the ability to see colour and detect fine details, the human eye is capable of perceiving depth and motion. Depth perception, which allows us to judge the distance between ourselves and objects in our environment, is crucial for tasks like catching a ball, driving a car, or walking across a room. It is the result of the brain processing the slightly different images received by each eye, combining them to form a three-dimensional picture of the world. Motion detection too plays a vital role in human vision. Our eyes are capable of detecting even the slightest movement, whether it's a bird flitting by or a car approaching in the distance. This ability to detect motion is vital for survival, enabling us to avoid danger and react quickly to changes in our environment. The eye, in its remarkable complexity, not only detects light, but also allows creatures to interpret the world around them. What was once a simple tool for detecting light has become a gateway to understanding the universe. Eyes allow us to make sense of the world's vast array of shapes, textures, colours, and motions. They are the first step in our cognitive process of recognizing and understanding what we see. Through our eyes, we make connections, solve problems, and create meaning. The eyes are the portals through which we perceive the beauty, danger, and complexity of the world. And yet, even as eyes evolved to process light and colour, they also became linked to the brain's capacity for higher-order thinking. The images we see are not just raw data. The brain interprets these images, categorises them, and stores them as memories. The brain uses the visual information it receives to build an internal model of the world, to make predictions, and to create mental maps of the environment. In this sense, the eyes are not just passive receptors of light. They are the gateway to the mind, connecting our perceptions of the world to our cognitive processes, thoughts, and behaviours. Vision, in its many forms, is the result of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. From the simple light-detecting cells of ancient organisms to the highly specialised eyes of modern animals, the evolution of vision has shaped the way we experience the world. It is a story of adaptation, of survival, and of beauty. The eyes are not just organs of perception, they are windows to the soul, allowing us to connect with the world and with each other in ways that are uniquely human. They are the product of evolution, and in them lies the story of life's incredible journey from the depths of the ocean to the heights of the sky. As the evolution of vision continued, it became evident that the ability to see was not just about survival in the immediate environment, it was also about navigating the complexities of the world. For creatures with vision, the ability to process visual information provided distinct advantages. It wasn't just about being able to detect predators or prey, it was about understanding the world in its full depth and detail. As eyes grew more complex, they allowed creatures to understand their surroundings on a deeper level. Depth perception, sharp focus, and the ability to detect movement became crucial for life on land, in the air, and in the water. The role of the eye in human development is profound. While many animals rely on their eyes for basic survival, humans have developed the ability to see with purpose and intent. The eye has become more than a simple tool for gathering light. It is the organ that allows us to interact with the world in ways that no other species can. From appreciating art to navigating the intricacies of human relationships, the human eye plays an essential role in the mental, emotional, and intellectual landscapes we create. Our ability to interpret the visual world around us has shaped every aspect of human history, from the discovery of new lands to the creation of art, music, and literature. The evolution of colour vision in humans, for instance, gave us a significant advantage in understanding the natural world. The ability to distinguish between different colours allowed early humans to better identify ripe fruits, healthy vegetation, and the colours of animals that could either be prey or danger. Colour vision was key in navigating the world efficiently, helping humans survive in diverse environments. This capacity for nuanced visual perception was essential for recognising not just patterns of light and shadow, but also the rich spectrum of colour that characterises the world. Humans are also capable of fine-tuning their focus, shifting their gaze rapidly from distant objects to those up close. This ability to adjust focus, to zoom in on details while also perceiving the larger environment, allows humans to interact with the world on multiple levels. Whether reading a book, identifying a moving target, or navigating through crowded spaces, the human eye's adaptability has shaped our interactions with the environment and each other. It is through the combination of sharp detail and a wide-ranging view of the world that we are able to make quick decisions, analyse our surroundings, and interact with other people and creatures. Yet the eyes have also been used for a deeper, more personal experience, seeing the world as an expression of beauty. Art, music, fashion, architecture, all of these forms of human expression are rooted in the way humans perceive the visual world. Humans have not just adapted to seeing the world, they have transformed that visual information into meaning. Artists use colour, light, and shadow to convey emotions and stories, while architects use visual symmetry and proportion to create spaces that influence how we feel. The eyes, in essence, have become instruments not just for survival, but for the creation of culture and personal identity. For many creatures, however, the evolution of vision did not stop at the development of sharp colour detection or fine detail. In some species, eyes develop the ability to see beyond the visible spectrum. Insects, for example, have compound eyes that allow them to see ultraviolet light, a range that humans cannot perceive. Some birds, such as hawks and eagles,